Week 4 of the NFL season is underway after a dramatic finish in primetime last night between a pair of divisional rivals. What better place to talk about it than here on the NFC West Huddle? Welcome in. I'm Ethan McReynolds in Seattle. I'm joined by our panel of experts from around the division, Megan Plain in Phoenix and Ryan Dyrud of the LAFB Network in Los Angeles. We start with a big divisional matchup on Thursday Night Football yesterday as the Seahawks beat the Cardinals at the buzzer after Arizona stormed back from down 2 touchdowns to tie it. Megan, Richard was talking a lot of crap on the Huddle last week. I don't know if you know. It makes sense that he didn't want to come on today to hear the music. But what were your thoughts on a close one in Glendale last night?
Oh, man, that game for a long time was rough, right? From the Cardinals' standpoint, it took them a long time to get anything going on offense. Obviously made it exciting there late in the game with those 2 exciting drives at the end of that one. But, yeah, their offense really struggled. You know, we saw early in the game they got some momentum going. But then, of course, there was the moment when Marvin Harrison Jr. had that little bobble. It ended up being an interception, so that really killed the momentum that they had going there. Late in the game, though, Marvin, of course, bounced back, got him a crucial touchdown there. But the way to end it for the Cardinals, man, that's 2 straight weeks in a row where it's a field goal as time expires, and they are now winless in the division. So it wasn't a great performance for them, that's for sure.
Yeah, that is crazy. Yeah, 2 weeks in a row. We'll talk about that Niner game in just a bit. For the Seahawks, meanwhile, I mean, yeah, same here. It was a game filled with mistakes. You got Kobe Bryant fumbling that Marvin Harris, that was a different interception actually, but Kobe Bryant fumbling the interception, Ken Walker running backwards on numerous occasions, plus the taunting call that took them out of field goal range. Jackson Smith-Njigba's hold on Zach Charbonnet's touchdown run that would have put the game away. Instead, the Hawks have to settle for a field goal. So many self-inflicted wounds, but I feel like that's to be expected in a short week on the road against a division rival. It was always going to be a sloppy game. It was never going to be easy. For me, the most important part, the Seahawks found a way to overcome those mistakes, very similar to Week 2 against the Steelers. Sam Darnold had 28 seconds to get into field goal range when it mattered, and he got it done on a beautiful ball to JSN. I thought Darnold played incredible. And Megan, I hope Richard now knows that he is better than Jimmy Garoppolo and Jacoby Brissett. We've settled that. Sam Darnold has been amazing, and if he continues to play like this, combined with what's been a top 5 defense in the league, the Seahawks could absolutely go win the division and make a deep run into the playoffs. Ryan, let's go over to you. A tough, heartbreaking loss to the Eagles. The Super Bowl champs come back from down 26-7. What happened in Philly for the Rams?
Yeah, Ethan, I'm still sitting here like 5 days removed from that game and just perplexed how they lost that game. It was pure domination in the first half and even kind of controlled or sustained momentum for much of the second half, and what really killed them was the red zone offense. I mean, when you have to settle for, we'll call it 5 field goals, obviously the 6th attempt was for that game winner at the end of the game, but you settle for 5 field goals in the red zone, making 4 of them. A, you make that last one, or B, you just score a touchdown, you win that game. So I thought overall this Rams team showed that they can compete with anyone, showed some improvement in some areas on offense, specifically in the run game, showed some improvement on defense, specifically against the run, holding Saquon Barkley, I believe, to like 26 yards rushing. But they just weren't able to control it the entirety of the game, and obviously the red zone offense was an issue last year that plagued them, and so far it's been an issue this year through even just 3 games. So until they get that corrected, they're not like that true elite echelon Super Bowl team, but clearly they're good enough to play with anyone. Now it's just a matter of if they can put games away, and they got a tough opponent this week, Ethan, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
All right, that's our look back. Now let's look ahead. Ryan, I want to go over to you. I want to tap into your Niner knowledge, the Niners that win over the Cardinals, but they lose Nick Bosa, a huge loss for them. How big is that Nick Bosa loss? But they're also getting Brock Purdy back this week. How big is that for them?
Yeah, I'll try to be as unbiased as I can, Ethan, talking about the Niners. But this team is cursed, man. It's crazy that these injuries just seem to stack up every single season, and not just to complementary players, but to key pieces and star talent. So Nick Bosa, obviously one of the premier pass rushers in the entire NFL, and not just in terms of getting after the quarterback, but just disruption in the run game from a leadership perspective and what he brings, across the entire defensive line and front seven. So massive loss there. Obviously getting Brock Purdy back as their leader, I think is a good thing. We'll see if it's a little early. Him, originally looked like 3-4 weeks, and after just 2 weeks from that severe turf toe coming back, but obviously I think that's a benefit. And, considering it's a toe injury and not anything with the arm or mechanics or shoulder, you feel a little better about maybe rushing back a little bit. And the other guy, Ethan, they're getting Demarcus Robinson back, who was suspended the first 3 weeks of the season in the receiver room. Obviously, we know about Brandon Ayuk, who I think just this week, general manager John Lynch said he's not even close to where we thought or hoped he had be with the late season torn ACL. So looks like further along for that. So getting Demarcus Robinson in the receiving game is certainly going to help Brock Purdy, who's now just getting back after 2 weeks. So getting some reinforcements, but obviously losing Nick Bosa is massive on that defensive side.
And then, Ryan, I'm curious, with the Rams, how are the guys taking the Eagles' loss? I mean, on the one hand, you almost beat the undefeated reigning Super Bowl champs. On the other, you let a team come back from 3 possessions down. How's the team dealing with it? And are Sean McVay's teams normally good at bouncing back from these type of tough losses?
Yeah, team-wise, and to answer your last question, the Rams are generally pretty good at bouncing back and, real professional, taking care of business. They're approaching it as, hey, we just played 60 minutes with the defending Super Bowl championships team, should have won, good enough to win if we clean up some of these mistakes we made down the line, if we clean up some of that red zone offense like I said about in the last segment, we're good enough to beat anyone. The fan base, on the other hand, totally different. Like what happened, kind of what I was saying of just, total meltdown of a game where you're 26-7 lead, you cannot capitalize that at all. You end up having 2 blocked field goals to end up losing the game. Obviously, the last one got returned for the icing on the cake for the Eagles. So different mentality from the fan base. From a team perspective, no panic, no worry. They took it to the brink on the road. They had back-to-back 10 a.m. starts on the East Coast and came away 2-1. So they're fully focused on the Colts now this week and trying to get back to 3-1. And, I do expect them to bounce back in a big way and play well this week at SoFi in front of the home crowd.
Megan, over to you with the Cardinals. Marvin Harrison Jr., another tough drop. You mentioned it on the interception, but he made some huge plays down the stretch. Is the fan base, are you guys feeling better about him moving forward? And what was he saying after the game? What was his mood like?
I don't know about feeling better, right? It's just, there's going to be moments where you see the guy you thought you drafted, and then other moments where it's just, complete brain farts out there, really dropping the ball. It seems like his confidence is down a little. You could kind of see it when he scored that touchdown. You could kind of sense a little bit of relief from him there, in that moment. I will say he did not talk with media after that game. We were in there the whole time in the locker room from when it opened to when it closed, and he did not come in during that duration when media was available in there to talk with them. So we didn't get to hear from him directly, but when we look at his teammates, wide receiver Michael Wilson, he talked about Marv, saying, we have all the belief in him. You saw the way he bounced back. Paris Johnson Jr. as well, a guy who played with Marvin Harrison Jr. at the college level, so he's been around him for a really long time. He's like, yeah, the guy, he gets it, he goes about his business the right way, and we have all the belief in him. Same thing from Kyler Murray, right? He's like, I need him as much as he needs me, and he'll figure it all out. So obviously from the teammate standpoint, there's a lot of confidence out there in Marvin Harrison Jr. He definitely does approach the game the right way, right? We saw the way in the offseason he bulked up. He wants to get better. He does everything he possibly can to get better. It's really just a mental thing with him right now. And if he can overcome that mental hurdle, we see flashes of how good he can really be out there.
Yeah, those mental hurdles sometimes harder than the physical ones. Hopefully Marvin Harrison Jr. can get over that one. For the Seahawks, as we look ahead a little bit, I'll be looking for the offense to be more consistent. They haven't really put together a full 4-quarter performance yet. I know the Saints game was over in the first half, but that first half in Pittsburgh was filled with mistakes. The Niner game wasn't great all around. The offense couldn't do much in the second half because of their own mistakes until that final game-winning drive. That's going to start with being better in the running game, something that is a staple of Clint Kubiak's offense. The Hawks have stayed committed to it, but they haven't always gotten the results. It's something the Hawks will look to improve during their mini bye week here ahead of a Week 5 matchup with the Bucs at Lumen Field. All right, let's get to some game predictions from everyone. Ryan, the Rams are 3.5-point favorites at home against Indiana Jones and the undefeated Colts. Do the Rams win, and do they cover?
Yeah, man. I mean, this is such a tough game. We were talking, pre-air of how when we were doing our season predictions before the season began, this game was kind of circled as the one kind of gimme game, or the one as after playing the Eagles on the road, you get to come home, you get kind of an easy Colts team. And The Colts may be the best team in the AFC. Looking 3-0. The offense is fantastic. The running game with Jonathan Taylor looks fantastic. Maybe, Ethan, the 3 best nicknames in all of the NFL when you look at Indiana Jones, when you look at Jonathan Taylor Thomas, and you look at Tyler Warren G. I mean, that's a triage coming at you in the Rams defense that they got to contend with. So by no means an easy matchup. It's going to be a battle in LA, but 3.5-point favorites. Like I said, I do think the Rams bounce back after that tough loss against the Eagles. I think the run defense is able to not stop Jonathan Taylor, kind of like they did with Saquon Barkley. It's hard to do back-to-back weeks, but I do think they slow him down from his 112-yard per average pace, which will keep them in check. I think the secondary has a little bit of a bounce-back game after getting beat late by the likes of A.J. Brown and whatnot, so hopefully they'll be able to contend with Michael Pittman over there. So I think the defense does enough. I think the offense does enough late, but I don't think they cover. I think they win 27-24, take the over, but only win by 3, not the 3.5.
All right, Megan, no San Francisco representative. Our teams both played, so I'll give you the Niner-Jags game. With Brock Purdy, Niners are still just 3.5-point favorites against the Jaguars. What do you think? Do the Niners win, and do they cover?
I think that the Jaguars, they've been good when it comes to, forcing turnovers so far this season. They're a very up and down team, though, right? And then you have the Niners that has to deal with a good handful of injuries right now. Honestly, I don't like either of these teams very much this week. I'm going to go with the 49ers, and I'm going to say they cover. I think they're on a little bit of a roll right now, despite having to deal with injuries. So I think they're going to keep it rolling.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that 3.5 line, that was before the Purdy injury. It hasn't changed, so I can absolutely see the Niners running away with that one. The Jaguars aren't exactly a well-oiled machine. That offense led by former Hawks offensive coordinator Shane Waldron. Trevor Lawrence hasn't exactly proven that he's that guy, so we'll see if he can do it against a pretty good Niners defense, even without Nick Bosa. All right, let's move on. Final topic for the show. This is the big one. Now that we're a few games in, call your shot. Be bold. Who do you have winning the NFC West? And has your answer changed since the season started? Megan, I'll go to you first.
Who winning the NFC West? When the season started, I was all in on the Cardinals. I was like, this offense, they've got it together. They're going to have everything clicking this year. As of right now, that doesn't seem to be the case. So I do not have the Cardinals winning it any longer. I think the Rams, later in the season, as the season progresses, I think they could swoop in there and get the job done. So I'm going to go with them.
Wrong answer, in my opinion. Wrong answer. But Ryan, let's go over to you with LAFB Network. Are you still with I believe you took the Rams at the beginning of the season. Are you still picking the Rams to win the division?
Yeah, I took the Rams. For now, I'm sticking with the Rams as well. It's a very healthy team. I know the Niners are 3-0, and they get to play each other next Thursday in what should be a great matchup. But the Niners, as always, have the injuries, as we've talked about. We'll see what Brock Purdy looks like coming back from injury. And I think the Rams have just stayed healthy enough. I think the offense is only going to get better as the season progresses. And that defensive front might be one of the best in all of football with Jared Verse and Byron Young. So I really do like the Rams to continue getting better and better and, sustain that throughout the season and end up winning the division. So sticking with the Rams.
Have the Seahawks done anything for you, Ryan, to get you concerned at all about them pushing for a division title and the Rams?
I was I can't remember if I was asked this at all by you guys, but I was actually pretty high on the Seahawks just because I know I've said on the show before I really do like Sam Darnold. I don't say that jokingly. I think he's a better quarterback than a lot of people give him credit for. Mike McDonald, obviously a great defensive mind, is going to get that defense. Kind of how I think Sean McVay and the offense is going to get better and better. I think the Seahawks defense is just going to get better as the season rolls on. So I do think the Seahawks can absolutely push the Rams or anyone in that matter in this division. I just don't know if they're there yet. When you look at a veteran quarterback like Stafford down here in LA, but I think the Seahawks are building something special, and with that dynamic duo in the backfield, I think they can push for it. I just don't think they're quite there yet.
Man, I love brownie points for Ryan here in Seattle. Megan, please send that clip to Richard, and you can sign it for me. For me, with the division, I was personally between the Niners and the Rams in the preseason for winning the division. I was leaning more towards the Rams. Not that I didn't think the Seahawks were going to be able to compete. I more so predicted them as a wild card team in the playoffs. I'm now out on the Niners because of that Bosa injury. Brock Purdy. Turf toe doesn't just go away. I feel like it's still going to hamper him throughout the season. I remember having Jabed Best in fantasy way back in the day when he was the big waiver pickup for the Lions, and then he got turf toe, and he was questionable the rest of the season. So that sticks with me. I think it's going to affect Purdy much of the season. But yeah, I didn't think the Seahawks were going to be division contenders, not playoff teams. But now I think it's between the Rams and Seahawks for that NFC West crown. And honestly, I'm sort of leaning with the Seahawks. I'm going to go with the Seahawks to win it. This defense is playing so much better than a year ago, year 2 under Mike McDonald. It's the same defense, Ryan, that stifled your Rams midseason in their one matchup where the starters for both teams were playing. It was a pair of Geno Smith red zone turnovers that really handed the game to the Rams. Stafford did not have his best game in that one. Sam Darnold's playing out of his mind right now. I think the Seattle Seahawks are your NFC West champs when we get to January. All right. That's going to do it for this edition of the NFC West Huddle. Thank you to our incredible panel. Be sure to check out everyone's content on our respective Fox websites and head over to LAFBnetwork.com for Ryan's awesome continuous coverage of the Los Angeles Rams. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.